Hey there guys, Elite Legionarii here, and today I'm bringing you a 2 versus 2 for Total War Rome 2. In this particular battle, I ran into a guy online. His name was P-Dog, and he was a really nice guy to run into because he was one of those guys. Sometimes it doesn't happen that often, but when it does happen, it's always great. You run into someone and they start talking some strategy with you, and that's always good, because usually when I go into 2v2s or 3v3s with random, or any team battle with just random people I've never played with before, it's usually myself, or I have to initiate any team strategy. It's quite often the case nobody responds to me, or there's just nothing, so we just kind of make it up as I go along. But this guy actually, before I was going to message him, but then he messaged me first and said, so well, let's do this, this and this, and I thought, great, I've actually got someone here I can work with, who wants to do teamwork. So I had a couple of games with him, and he was a really good guy to work with. I had him on Steam, and we had some great 2v2s, a couple of really good 2v2s. So in this battle he took the Seleucids, I took Athens, our opponents took Rome and Macedon, and basically you're going to see some pretty good teamwork between me and this guy. My army consists of a Thorax Hoplite for my general, just to save money. Then I have 6 Thorax Swordsmen, 5 Cretan Archers, 4 Epeius Lancers, 2 Therios Spears, and 2 Citizen Cav, with about 3 upgrades going into the Epeius Lancers. This was a 16k, so ultra funds game. It also had the rules, I think it was like 1 elephant, 1 chariot, no art, and no horse archers, I think. No, there might have been no limit on the chariots. I can't actually remember. But it was a good game, and it's just on Numida Sena, so it's basically the grassy flatlands of Rome 2. So that was my army. Let's have a look at my Seleucid ally, P-Dog's army. He had 6 units of Syrian archers, so he's got a very strong missile contingent just like me. And then in terms of infantry, he's got 4 Thorax Swordsmen out here. But the strength of his army is these 3 Agama Cav, sorry, 3 Agama Cav and 3 Azart Knights. So he's got 3 strong shock cavalry and 3 very strong melee cavalry. Then he's got an Indian armoured elephant. So this would have taken probably more than half his money to just create this little section of army here. That would have been very, very expensive to get all these units, but they were good units to get, and he uses them well in this fight. So we have a pretty strong cavalry corps. Him in particular, he's got very, very strong cavalry, and we've got a very strong missile corps as well, and the infantry units are capable. Our opponents are Macedon and Rome, and the Macedonian player's got 2 Thorax Swordsmen, 1 Therios Spear, 2 Royal Peltists, 5 Royal Peltists, 2 Hoplites here, 2 Citizen Cav, 3 Citizen Cav, 1 Archer, and then he's got 6 units of Thorax Pikemen. But this guy plays fairly statically, and I wasn't that surprised when I saw his build and the way he deployed that he was probably a player who would do this. Relying a lot on infantry here, he's pretty much going for using pikemen on his front and defend his flanks with heavy infantry, sword infantry, and some hoplites, with just a few cav units to support. Now the Roman player here, I definitely think this Roman player was the better player on their team. He has 3 units of Equites, and then he's got 3 units of Praetorian Cavalry and Wedge, or Flying Wedge. Then he's got Legionary Cavalry, General's Bodyguard, of course. Then he's got a whole lot of Evocati cohorts, so he's got extremely powerful sword infantry. Evocati are very powerful, very good sword infantry indeed. So they had the infantry advantage, there's no doubt about that. We most certainly have the missile advantage, and that was something we were going to take our time with and use. So we won't attack overly aggressively. We're going to try and use our missile units to wear down all these Thorax pikemen with constant barrages of heavy shot from all our archers, which turns out to be 9 archers, and these are good archers too. Cretans and auxiliary Syrian archers are very, very good archers. So constant barrages from these is going to force this Macedonian player to react, break up his army, and then we can wear him down and basically just grind him down in individual fights, and then we can just team up and either hold, or we'll hold the Roman player while we destroy the Macedonian player, then we'll just tag team the Roman player at the end. because the Roman player's got very powerful infantry, and he's got some pretty good cavalry here too. Praetorian cav is very good melee cavalry, but we do have the cavalry advantage though. So yeah, we have the advantage of missiles and cavalry, but they certainly have the infantry advantage here. But they play a more static role, and I always reckon players who play static, or basically by static I mean very defensive player, like very defensively. Now I have nothing against defensive playing, because defensive playing can be very successful, but the problem is so many players execute the defensive style wrong. They just sit still. They react to what all the attacking players are forcing them to do, and they don't create scenarios themselves. It's what I call reactionary defense, and basically static defense. A lot of people just sit still. They don't actually try and force their opponents into their defensive and then make them play into the defenses that you've set up. They allow themselves to react to all these scenarios that the attackers put on them, and a lot of players allow themselves to their defenses to become broken down this way, which is not very great if you are playing defense. And some people are purely more defensive players, and that's fine. I myself prefer to attack. I play better that way. Maybe it's my personality. I'm sure personality actually has a lot to do with the way you play, but the point is, I run into quite a lot of players online, not just in Rome 2, and all Total War games, where they play very defensively, and just like an attacking player attacks them, and they just make moves to counter every little situation the attacker's doing, and don't really try counter-attacking or counteracting moves and stuff. They're just copying situations, and they steadily get ground down by the attacking player. Whereas a skilled defensive player will set up himself a good defensive position and use combination of perhaps like cav attacks, or missile attacks to try and draw his opponent into his defences, and then try and get them to shatter themselves on his defences, then go on the counter, which I find with defensive players who do that, would be very, very tough players to defeat. But you don't often, in my opinion, you don't often see as many successful defensive players as you do as attacking players, and I think it's just because sometimes being a good defending player is actually probably even harder to do in a lot of ways, especially in games like Rome 2, where are very fast paced, or at least as a patch 14. I think take Empire and Napoleon Total War. I think being a defensive player there is much more common, because the game is just easier to be more defensive with, in my opinion. But in like Rome Total War, Total War Rome 2, Medieval 2, it's much easier, and I think much more proactive to be an attacking player. But it's not to say that there aren't some great defensive players out there, and it can be very effective. You just got to know what you're doing. But anyway, I've been waffling on long enough about that. We finally get into a position to start putting heavy shot down on Thorax Pikeman. I actually think my ally's still in regular shot here, but even in regular shot he's still doing a bit of damage. But I want to go to heavy shot because I want to chop them down quickly. There's no enemy arch units, so there's no need to worry about getting close. And over here, I might actually go to a slower speed. I see that my opponent's brought in his Praetorian cavalry, and I charge with my citizen cav just to pin them down. My ally sends his Azart Knights into these Equites, and we're trying to conserve some shock cavalry for rear charges towards the end of the fight. Now this is why I brought my 2 Theros Spears, because Rome has, as a patch 14, has the Draco ability. It often means that they often win cav fights against superior cav, quite often against superior cav units. So I brought this. As you can see, he's pumped Draco now, and that reduces the morale of my men. But I brought Theros Spears so I could keep his Praetorians either pinned or force them away, and then I could use my Epeius Lancers and go around the flank and get rear charges with hard-hitting trample charge. If we look at the back out here, as you can see, between myself and my ally here, sorry I'm losing my voice, I've been talking too much, we've managed to cut down 2 units of Thorax pikemen, and this has forced the Macedonian player to break his defensive formation up, and he's reacting now. So now we can break him up and fight in piecemeal fights, which is what we want. And now I'm able to get some rear charges down these Romans, and this is where the Theros hoplites came in, or Theros spears came in useful, because I was able to keep his infantry, his cavalry pinned, and then use my shock cavalry and rear charges against them, because in a straight down grind out fight, patch 14, those shock cavalry would lose to his Praetorian cavalry. Up at this end of the fight, my ally tosses his Indian armoured elephants in, and he pretty easily wins with his much better units of cavalry here. His Zart Knight's a really good melee cavalry unit, and he's got his Agema Cav, which is superb shock cavalry as well. And he's still got his elephants here, and they're going to get into these unbraced Evocati, and that's going to cause quite a bit of damage. It should do anyway. It's going to pin down all these infantry anyway, and they don't really have the means to destroy it. Over here, I managed to get I preserved a couple of my Hippeus Lancers and sent them around the flank, and I've got my Thorax Swordsman in here, and I got some rear charges in, destroyed two units of his infantry units, and then I got my guys fighting some of his Thorax Pikemen here, which are not in formation. I caught them out of formation so I can destroy them this way, and then I'm outflanking them over here with my own Thorax Swords. And I'm then just using heavy shot just to wear down his general's unit. Now over here he gets some of his guys in here. Over here my ally pins down the remainder of these, I think these are raw peltists, which are better than his sword infantry, but he's got the numbers, so it should be okay. And we've got plenty of missile fire here that's constantly just wearing our opponents down. Over here, as you can see, got some good rear charges in on these guys here, and his Thorax Swordsman getting pretty heavily bashed down by mine, and because I'm using my Hippeus Lance support. Over here, the elephants are still alive, although they've become a bit static. You want to keep elephants moving to get the most out of them. So I just constantly be clicking orders in and out of this, just keep charging in and out, because by sitting still they kind of get killed easier. So keeping them moving is same with chariots, key to getting the most out of them. But he still gets 172 kills. We probably, to pay for Indian armoured elephants, you probably want to be getting about 250 kills, I reckon. 250 kills to pay for them, because they are about 1500, 1600. Actually no, they're more than that. They're more like 1900, aren't they? So yeah, you really want to be getting 250 probably plus kills with them, to be honest. Here I get a rear charge in on his these raw peltists that were fighting my opponent here, sorry, my ally, and he brings some Evocati in, but now we've got plenty of heavy shot coming in, and we've got massive cavalry superiority, and just massive superiority either way, because we're able to use our missile units again just to disrupt the Macedonian player. He broke up his defences and we just took him out piecemeal with use of shock cavalry and missile units, and just surrounding him basically, and it's allowed us to pretty decisively destroy the Macedonian player, which leaves the Roman player very isolated, with very little tools to defend himself. He's still got these fantastic Evocati cohort, which are brilliant sword infantry, very powerful, but he's got no tools other than them at the moment. We've got all these missiles, we've got cav, we've still got plenty of swords, and lots of numbers obviously. Because again, they kind of fought separately, whereas myself and my ally fought as a team, as partners. We combined our attacks up here, we combined our attacks over here, and we were constantly working together. And it makes all the difference, guys, in team battles, which is why I quite often usually only play 2v2, 3v3 games when I'm with friends that I know on Steam, people I can actually work with. Which is why this battle was a really pleasant surprise from this ally I met, because he was, a really friendly guy and a great ally, and that basically meant that I was able to play a good team battle with someone who was willing to work as a teammate, and I don't like playing with people who don't work as a team, because it's no fun. And I'm happy to work with anyone as long as they're willing to play as a team, and this guy was, which was great. So now what we're doing is we're getting our archers around the flanks and into the sides, and we're taking pop shots to the side, and then using a shock cavalry to get rear charges. And these Evocati, as great as they are, can't resist all that at once. And basically, as you can see, the units are just getting worn down before they can, even while they're routing by our missile units. So let's go to, I think we can go triple speed actually, I don't think it will lag. And at this stage, there's one new Evocati out here, so I think we can probably get some nice close-ups actually. Let's go down here like so. So it's going to brace itself, and we're going to get some pretty nice charges in on it. And here comes Trample, both of these units of Apaeus Lancers. And bam, just like that. So that basically brings an end to the battle with that final little charge there. So again, much like in other battles I've uploaded, it really comes down to teamwork. I mean, there is builds and things, army builds and tactical styles and stuff, but teamwork's usually the most critical tool in these kinds of battles. And as you can see by me and my allies' kills, we've got very similar kill counts. We were constantly in support of one another. My ally here, P-Dog's got just short of 1200 and I have just over 1100. And if we look at my guys here, most of my swords did well, to be honest. Only this one got beaten up, but it still got 100 kills. So, and same with this one, 77. So my swords did well. They did very well. My archers got lots of kills and no losses at all. We had archer supremacy. We used it. We didn't go in before. Then we made them attack us, and then we split their forces up and use our archers to get rear shots and basically break them up, and then be able to use our shock cavalry to get some really dangerous charges in on them and do very well. While we used our spearmen and our cavalry just to pin down that Roman cavalry and defeat it in detail, basically. With only these two Praetorian cav really getting anything. All these expensive and very tough Evocati cohort really didn't do very much because they became isolated on their own, and just it didn't pay for them. They didn't pay for themselves. If we look at my ally here, as you can see again, his shock cavalry, his cavalry's got the lion's share of his kills, but he's still got a pretty good decent amount with his 4 sword units, and his archers, like mine, got a fair number of kills all around the board. But again, he had some superb cavalry, and it got ended up getting a lot of kills, which was to be expected, to be honest, because it was the strongest wing of his army. And some excellent charges of the shock cavalry, and his Zart Knight's superb melee cav. And again, I mean, it was like this Macedonian player here, he clearly was going in for a defensive style, and he played purely defensive, and when his defence was getting broken up by our archers, he broke his defence up and all his units became spread out and were easily picked apart in little piecemeal battles, which is not really what you want to do. And again, that's what I was talking about at the start of this fight, about players who play defensively but react to everything the attacking team is putting on them, instead of trying to create their own defence and force their attacking player to play into their defensive setup. But you didn't really have the tools to do it, to be honest. In order to do that, you usually need archers. You usually need to use cav to kind of force situations into your favour and that sort of thing. And as you can see, he just didn't really have those tools, and he didn't do it, and nothing in his army really stood out at all, to be honest. He didn't do that great. So good game to my ally P-Dog, and good game to my opponents there. I enjoyed it, I had fun, and I have another one I did with P-Dog coming up next. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon next time.